quite a list of questions here, a stack, and I want to honor the requests of our audience members, but I also want to be somewhat mindful of time. So there are a couple of questions that I think were addressed in the opening remarks that I may, in my discretion, not ask in order that we can continue with more of the questions that are directed to both candidates. So I'm going to ask first a question about NOACA. And this question is, of what value does a Northeast Ohio Area Coordinating Agency provide to the citizens of Geauga County, especially the Amish and their transportation difficulties? And let's start with you, Mr. Galicki, and then Mr. Spitaleri. You each have a minute.
Okay, this seems to be a question that has come up at every candidate's night about NOACA. And NOACA is an agency which takes some of our tax dollars from gas taxes and reallocates them to public projects that are principally addressed with transportation, okay? Now, some would argue that, NOACA's usefulness is limited, or that funds get reallocated to others, outside of Geauga County. Unfortunately, there is a mandate for the composition of NOACA. It's often based on, your representation is based on populations. So, is there a greater need with the Amish community? I can't really address whether the Amish needs are being addressed at the county level adequately or not. But my position is that let's use those funds when they are available to us so that we don't have to raise taxes through other means to support road projects.
Thank you, Mr. Spitaleri.
Okay, I can tell you that as far as the Amish are concerned, we had a very monumental decision that was brought in with NOACA dollars for Geauga County. We are receiving approximately $9 million in funding. That work is actually going to be starting this year. And that's thanks to Senator Portman and Congressman Dave Joyce that really got out there and supported the commissioners that sat on the board at the time. Was Commissioner Lennon and Commissioner Claypool. I also sit on NOACA. However, the way that the structure is they do not permit our engineer, which involves our roads, to sit on NOACA. So my position is given to the county engineer to be able to represent us. But as far as the Amish goes, 100%. NOACA did support a huge program, and in addition to that, they have ulterior transportation methods, which do include horse and buggy travel. So it's something that we were able to figure out working with NOACA so that we can benefit the Amish.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, I have another question for both of you. As a student in a paramedic school who would theoretically be a first responder, what is your take on gun control, gun safety, and preventing school shootings? And we'll start with you, Mr. Spitaleri.
Okay, this is a great question. So I started in law enforcement in 1989, been a police officer for almost 30 years. Still actually a commissioned police officer with the state of Ohio under the Ohio Police Officers Training Commission. So my position is this, is that the best way that you stop an attack with a gun is to have another gun. I also own 2 gun shops in this county. I'm pro Second Amendment 100%. You are not going to stop the criminal element from getting firearms. So the best thing to do for your family is to own a firearm.
Okay. Mr. Galicki.
I'll begin by saying I am also a strong supporter of our Second Amendment rights. But I believe that, there's another element which may not be being addressed, and that's education about safety and gun uses. I've belonged to the biggest, largest gun club that exists in the United States military. So I'm not unfamiliar with use of guns or the damage that weapons can provide to humans. However, I think we need to improve our education, and that begins at the family level about safe practices, safe storage, and also education beyond that. beyond the family level, in the schools, with emphasis throughout the community. And I know a lot of communities are providing educational benefits and programs where they teach gun safety, provide locks, etc.
Thank you. I have another question for both of you. I want to recycle everything from bottles and cans to electronics and chemicals. The current level of service is woefully inadequate. Would you invest part of the surplus to expand recycling services for county residents? We'll start with you, Mr. Galicki.
Okay, recycling is a great idea. One of the things that we're facing, and I see it in my own community of South Russell Village, is that fewer and fewer folks are accepting recyclables. Many of you have probably seen this in even glass bottles. And the problem is that, we used to have a lot of offshore countries that would accept our wastes for recycling. But that number has reduced significantly in the past few years. So the problem is, recycling is a good idea, and I encourage everybody to recycle to the largest extent possible, but finding those outlets that can process those wastes has become a real challenge. So yes, let's make recycling efforts available to the community, but we have to understand they have to go someplace after they get collected. Thank you.
Mr. Spitaleri.
Thank you. So this goes back to my position on having someone involved that has an understanding of what we do within our office. So we have a board that is shared with the Trumbull County, Geauga County Solid Waste. And we have approximately $5.5 million right now in that account. We have already cleared ground on Merritt Road by where our engineering office is, if you're familiar with that we're going to be putting up about a $1.2 million recycling center that will handle paints, we will be handling television sets, hazardous waste, all of our waste so that we can have that. And as far as the need, you go by any of these recycling positions in these townships and the garbage and the recycling bags are overflowing with the amount of need that there is for them. And it's an eyesore. And we're going to eliminate that for Geauga County, and that's why we're putting the investment to put a state-of-the-art collection facility centrally located right in downtown, basically East Clarendon, where it's going to be easy to get to and everybody can enjoy the benefits of that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to combine two questions. This is an issue that I understand has been raised at previous candidates' nights. So I'm going to ask it in a slightly different way. One person has a question for Mr. Spitaleri about attendance at commissioners' meetings, which you addressed somewhat in your opening. And the question is, you said that missing commissioner meetings is routine. In the Maple Leaf, you were dismissive about your attendance and voting record. Is that really how county business should be conducted? So I'll let you address that, Mr. Spitaleri, and then I have a follow-up question for Mr. Galicki.
Sure, thank you. So a couple things. I'm a business owner here in the county. I sit on a board that is in Fort Worth, Texas. We meet twice a year. When our meetings were 2 times a week, and you're gone, and I'm gone for 2 times a week, that basically is 4 meetings a year. Then there's all kinds of other interaction that we have of other meetings that take place, meetings with different people. This solid waste district, for example, takes an enormous amount of time of site plans, site assessments, everything that goes in there. I don't keep a diary, but I can tell you that I'm not playing hooky. And it's a situation that I'm always looking out for the best interest of the county. And we've got a current commissioner sitting here, we've got a former commissioner sitting here. Never once do we ever have any kind of issue that is not reviewed by our prosecutor that comes forward. And if it is a situation that there is a chance of some kind of a vote, that there is a question of any sort, those meetings and those minutes or those agenda items will always be passed to the next meeting so that all 3 of us will have a vote and a say in it.
Thank you. Mr. Galicki, this question is directed to you. How many Geauga County Commissioners meetings have you attended personally?
You know, quite frankly, before I assumed the office, I attended the same amount as Commissioner Lennon and Commissioner Spitaglieri. So I have not attended commissioner meetings. I am a serving government official at the village level, so oftentimes the flexibility is not available. But I would guarantee you that if elected, if I have the privilege to be, that I'll be at the meetings. I will show up.
Mr. Glicky, this question is directed to you, and that is, what experience do you have that qualifies you to be our county's commissioner, other than your military experience?
Well, again, we have a couple of serving county commissioners that made their campaigns.
The question was specifically directed to your experience.
And I'm answering that question. I have as much experience as at least 2 serving commissioners have. They campaigned on having absolutely no experience. I have at least a village council experience. I have a familiarity with the Ohio Administrative Code and the Ohio Revised Code that at least 2 people before they assumed office did not have.
Okay. One last question.
Can I respond back on that? Because my name was brought up in that of me not having experience. I've run a company for 20 years that every year does tens of millions of dollars of sales in this county, supporting our tax, supporting our people, supporting our local workers. In addition to that, I take that a little offensively when you're going to tell me that I don't have experience. How many times have you had to cover payroll benefits? Ill employees to the point on the
I'm going to stop this
sector.
now because we're not engaging in a debate tonight. I did let you respond.
I understand, but
I'm
that
happy to
needs
respond.
to be able to be released.
Should you
Okay.
want to entertain a response?
Okay, so we're going to move on to the last question for you two, and that is, please justify the move out of Chardon. What will you do to help Chardon with the loss of revenue? I have no idea what that's relating to. So,
Sounds like the county offices.
yeah, it's what it sounds like to me, the county offices. Mr. Spitaglieri, would you like to address that first, and then I'll let Mr. Glicky follow up?
I would be happy to respond to that, but that's a question that has no substantiating evidence to say that there's loss of income. I think that the reality is that I think that's short-minded thinking that we're taking our offices down to the Merritt Road area that are not required to be in the county seat. But what this is going to do is it is going to give a huge economic boost to whoever else could come in to take our offices and bring new commerce to Chardon. So at the end of the day, I think that's a skewed question. I think that you're going to see an increase for Chardon. And I think that anybody that has a good business background will understand that and be able to ride our coattails to success. And we have you know, totally enjoyed Chardon's ability to take on this success for their city for years to come.
Mr. Glicky.
Well, I don't know if that ship has already sailed as far as the relocation. You know, it may be a good idea, it may be a bad idea, but I can't say that, you know, the process has not necessarily been transparent. I think it came as a surprise when most of us as citizens of Jug County found out by a newspaper article that the relocation was taking place. I believe there should have been more engagement with Chardon officials. Perhaps we should have raised the question of relocation to the citizens on the ballot to say, is this more suitable for some of our county offices than the current situation?
All right, thank you both for your